What's up, good people? Welcome to the Thinktankden After Dark podcast. I'm your host, Lelow Def, in the building. We have a crazy show for you tonight. I know we do things different on this show. Mainly it's going to be me talking about the things that are a little bit strange or the things that I find intriguing, my own personal thoughts, etc. By all means, leave your comments below. That way we can discuss those things, or if you have any ideas for shows, etc., please reach out. I'm always happy to hear from everybody out there in the world. Please also hit the like, subscribe buttons, depending on whatever platform you're on. It really helps the channel out to get things out far and wide, and hopefully make this show a success. This is a little bit different for me. It's the first time I've done things like this. Usually I'm used to just recording or producing music, but I've always wanted to do a podcast. It started from when I was a kid. My father had a show where he talked about different things about black businesses and things of that nature. And I remember being a kid just sitting outside the booth listening to him do his show, and just getting that whole experience and just soaking everything up. And one of the things that really pulled me into it was at that age, I think I might have been around maybe 14 years old. I was just getting into the idea and the thought of producing and mixing and engineering and DJing and stuff like that. And my pops had bought me a keyboard for my birthday. And it had different features to add beats and stuff like that. So I started playing around with that as a kid or whatever, and eventually grabbed some equipment from like thrift stores and stuff like that, and putting things together myself, and kind of had my own little mini studio in my room or whatever. And one day he came to me and he was like, "Hey, I like what you're doing, I like the sound, whatever." So he was like, make something for my show, and we'll use it in the show. And I did. And that was the first time I'd ever heard anything I'd ever done, played on the radio or anything like that. And it was kind of cool looking at the program and seeing my name on there as the producer for the music that he used in the intro and the outro to the show. It was definitely a life-altering experience, and I'm thankful for it. Rest in peace, Pops. But anyway, so fast forward to now, where we are now, and I've done music, I've done recording, I've even appeared in shows and things like that. So I've kind of always been involved in the entertainment world to a certain degree. I got away from it for a while and stepped away for many years, and now I'm kind of back to it, working on new music, recording albums, and working with different people and producing, etc., which is awesome. But now I'm moving on to something a little bit different, because that's just the way I am. I like doing different things and challenging myself. So ever since my father had that talk show, I always wanted to do something similar. So here I am, going down that road. But I'm a little bit different. I won't be discussing business and things like that per se. I'm mainly going to be focused on, the fringe stuff, those things that get the mental juices going, those what if things, because when I was a kid, I was kind of a comic book nerd. Okay, I was a huge comic book nerd. But anyway, one of my favorite books at that time was the What If series. I absolutely loved the What If series from Marvel. And the biggest thing I liked about it was it gave you the opportunity to just kind of think about outside of the box about, what different heroes would fight each other, what different characters would, have different powers or different outcomes to stories that you were already familiar with. So I absolutely loved that. And that's kind of like what this show is going to be. It's kind of like a what if to a certain degree. And of course, discussing some of those, fringe things out there that just kind of, we all think about, but kind of push to the back of our mind because we got, other things going on in our life, bills, work, kids, etc. But this just gives us an opportunity to kind of just think about something a little different. But the topic of tonight's show, to segue right into that, is going to be, is there life in the universe? I know. It's a question we probably can't answer anytime soon, or maybe some feel that they have already, but who knows? But it's something that I've always contemplated, always found fascinating. There's an author and scientist, Carl Sagan. I read his book Contact. I've actually read it more than once, but I think it's absolutely amazing book. But I find it pretty fascinating about how many of these scientists who kind of stick to the mainstream, but off channel, actually think about life in the universe differently. Me personally, I believe there is life in the universe out there. I believe it's a plethora of life in the universe. I think it's teeming. With how vast the universe it is, I just can't believe for 1 second that it's just us. That's just it's kind of hard to it's harder to imagine that we're the only ones versus there's more life out there. But please leave your comments below, depending on the platform you're using, obviously. And let me know what you think. Do you believe there's life out there? And by all means, share your experiences. Some of us have seen things, some of us have felt things, and etc. By all means, share those things. I will do my best to read what I can and respond. And any ideas you have for the show going on into the future. But moving back into the concept and idea of life out there in the universe, when you look at how many galaxies they've found, and recently with the James Webb telescope, and when you look out there and you see that much space out there, you see just the amount of universes that are many larger than ours. To think for 1 second that it's just us kind of makes it even more difficult, especially as they find more and more stuff. And as we get into it, I'll pull up some things and some articles and stuff like that to kind of drive the idea and concept home. But I just wanted you to get my thoughts on it on a personal level about how I feel about it. But that's just me. I think there's life out there. I think there's a multitude of it. And I think at some point we're actually going to find it, if we haven't already. But, that's probably a topic for a different time. But I digress. I mentioned Carl Sagan earlier. I'm a huge fan of Carl Sagan. I think he was a pretty amazing individual in the way he thought about the universe. Actually, one of my favorite quotes from him is goes like the universe is a pretty big place. If it's just us, it seems like an awful waste of space. I think that's pretty much sums it up on the way that I feel about the universe. And again, I think it's teeming with life. For those who don't know, Carl Sagan was an astronomer and an author. Was a big purveyor of trying to find life out there scientifically, using the scientific method to hopefully one day find it. And some of the programs he was involved in and things that he set up may lead to that still, one day. You can only hope. And if you haven't, check out his books. I'm pretty sure you can find them just about anywhere. It's Carl Sagan. One of my favorite books is Contact. They actually made a movie about it. I think I want to say the book came out maybe 1985, but they made a movie about it. I believe starring was that the one that starred Jodie Foster? It might have been. I might be incorrect on that. I have to look that up. But I remember the movie being a great movie. I've probably seen it maybe 2 or 3 times. It's an older movie, but by all means, you should check it out. It's by the same name, Contact. And his other book, I believe, is called Cosmos. That's another great read. I would check that out as well. Kind of gives you a different perspective, especially a scientific perspective, on life out there and the possibilities of it, and some of the different ways that life can survive and push through, and some of the misconceptions we have about life needing certain things, certain types of environments. And we're finding more and more that life just finds a way. It just does. No matter how much in your own mind, you're thinking, well, there's not enough oxygen, there's not enough sunlight, etc. Well, that's we're stuck on Earth, right? we're stuck on the concept of what has to happen here in order to in order for life to prevail. But in other places, it may not be like that. I mean, there's so many other forms of microbes and things like that out there that could absolutely transcend some of those environments in ways that we just don't quite see yet. I mean, not too long ago, we discovered the extremophiles. I mean, obviously, that changed our perspective automatically just because the extreme environments that they can survive in. So that alone says that the possibility of life out there surviving in other ways and other forms, etc., definitely are out there. And it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. You know, like I said, I was a huge fan of the What If series, so I'm always what if in that concept. Like, you know, what if tomorrow they announce that they found life, or what if tomorrow that they say they discovered intelligent life or whatnot? You know, what would that do for us as a species? Would that change the way we think? Would that change life at all? And would it change it for you? I'd like to know what you think about that, because you know, some people have this old concept in their mind that if we, you know, aliens land tomorrow or we discover life or whatever, that suddenly the world's going to fall apart. You know, everything's going to crash and burn. You know, stock markets are going to crash, and it's going to be, you know, everything's going to burn a cinder. But I don't think so. I think that we are ready for it. I think that we're prepared to deal with that idea. I mean, we've thought about it for so long and toyed with the idea for this many decades that I believe that we could handle it as a species. You know, I don't think being told about it or discovering it would make. I don't think it would be that huge in the way that they think it is. But you know, I digress. I mentioned the James Webb Telescope earlier. Think about all the discoveries that in just that short amount of time that have been discovered by, you know, the advancement of that technology, which I think is going to be the key purveyor to us finding, you know, mysteries to the universe, etc. is going to be through technology. I don't think it's going to be any other way. I don't think we're going to necessarily, you know, accidentally or happenstance onto it. I think that we're going to continue to look and seek and try to find things and advance the technologies that do that, and eventually something's going to strike gold, so to speak. But I mean, if you think about, recently they started discovering things that they didn't believe could exist with the James Webb Telescope, that prior to would have been, you know, laughed at or considered fringe, or, you know, no one would have gave a second thought or even gave even mainstream scientists a chance to even to mention it or support it. One of the things they found was the I think it's an enormous distant galaxy. They said it shouldn't exist. It's like a massive galaxy. It's 500, 800 million years after the Big Bang. And it contains as many stars as the present day Milky Way, which, based on the way that they say that the universe should expand, that really shouldn't happen. But however, at the same time, it's 30 times more compact. So it just threw everything out the window. They had to rethink everything that they were even considering how the universe works. So just something as simple as that, that has changed things on how we see it. And then I'm supposed to believe that the universe is completely empty. That's virtually insane to even think it and look at it that way. I'm curious now. You know, I want to see what. I'm gonna hop on Google real quick. I want to see what else the James Webb Telescope has found. I'm tracking on a little bit of it, you know, but you know, life gets in the way, right? But let me see. There's probably some things I didn't even hear about. Let's see. Google. Okay. All right. This is according to Google. I just did a quick Google search on James Webb Telescope's discoveries for 2024. I'm just gonna go down the list here. James Webb Telescope, JWST, has made many discoveries in 2024, including, let's see, go down the list. Black hole merger. The JWST detected evidence of a merger between two galaxies and their black holes, which was the most distant detection of its kind. Okay. Let's see. The Horsehead Nebula. JWST captured the sharpest infrared images of the Horsehead Nebula to date. I'm gonna have to go look that up. Go check that out if you can find those images. Probably looks pretty cool. I'll check it out later when I get time. The Starburst Galaxy. The James Webb Telescope studied the Starburst Galaxy, and I'm probably going to mess this name up, the Messier 82, or known as M82, which is characterized by rapid star formation. All right. Next, planet forming disks. The JWST found the planet forming disk lasted longer in the early universe than expected. Like I said, they're finding all kind of stuff that's changing the way they're thinking about the universe and how it functions. Anyway, first actively forming galaxy. The JWST found the first actively forming galaxy that is as lightweight as the young Milky Way. I think that's referring to what we were talking about earlier. Let's see. Red dots in the early universe. The JWST captured images of red dots in the early universe, which were initially thought to be galaxy clusters, but were later identified as hydrogen gas spinning around black holes. Now, see, that's one thing that's always fascinated me, is the idea of black holes. You know, when you think about a black hole, you think about this just massive, giant thing, just, you know, sucking everything in. Nothing can get away from it. Nothing can escape, not even light, right? Which is, you know, how they found them, how we see them is because it's not the light, it's the absence of light, right? But, you know, fast forward, they find out that, you know, everything doesn't get sucked into it. Things do escape. And I've always found that pretty fascinating, that something that big, that massive, and that powerful, still, you know, things can escape from, you know, and you see the ejecti coming from it. And, you know, that's one way that we're able to find them as well, by seeing the energy coming from them, and the energy around them, that's circling the drain. It often reminds me of that one experiment where you know, it's water going down a drain, and, you know, they throw something in there, but sometimes it gets sucked in, but lots of times when it goes to go down a drain, it kicks stuff out. I mean, you can do this probably in your sink at home, but it'll kick things out, you know, instead of sucking it straight down in. So I've always found that pretty fascinating. And actually, we may do a show specifically on black holes, because I have a few theories about that. I have some things that's always played around in the back of my mind about, you know, the black holes, and where does everything go when it goes in and stuff like that, you know. And if you've ever seen the movie, what's it called, with Matthew McConaughey, I think, Interstellar. If you've ever seen that movie, I love that movie. I don't think there's another movie that could ever explain those types of concepts any better visually, you know. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's one of those movies that everyone should watch. You know, back in the day, they used to play movies in school, and and let us all, watch and look at them or whatnot, right? They need to do that again, and they need to do it with that movie. That's the movie that needs to play in a science class, because it does an amazing job at showing you the ideals and concepts behind black holes and the reality of them, as far as as we know it, of course. Um, and there's a lot of things in that movie that just sparked my mind, on so many topics. And one day we'll get into more of those things. But I actually might do a show specifically on the black holes. Let me know if you want to do that. Leave a comment. Let me know if that's something that you're interested in, and we'll talk about it. Let me continue with this James Webb list here. Next, galactic corpses. The JWST uncovered remnants of intense star formation during the cosmic dawn. The trifold supernova images. The JWST captured images of a supernova that can be used to calculate the Hubble constant, which is a value that helps astronomers understand the universe's expansion rate. And that's another thing that they're definitely finding that they're pretty much, were wrong on, is, how the universe is expanding. Because that's how they calculate the timeline, right, of how old the universe is, and etc. And that's absolutely changing. But that seems to be the new norm, right? Is all these timelines that they've established for decades are now being challenged by so many different discoveries. I mean, I don't know if some of you probably know or follow Graham Hancock. He definitely has kind of rattled the cage on that idea with some of the things that he's discovered that's challenging the timeline. I mean, it just is, and we have to rethink everything that we thought about history. And I think that we probably had the timeline wrong for a very long time. And we're finally starting to get to a point of opening up to correct it. Many of these things were considered fringe and you couldn't talk about it, or a lot of these tenured professors would get lose their jobs discussing these things. So it's pretty cool and pretty amazing that we're actually able to kind of discuss these things now more openly, and maybe get to the bottom of it, get to the truth of it. And I don't know about you, but I want to know our history, the actual history, not this whitewash stuff that they give to us. I'd like to see like to see what really happened. I don't think it's gonna cause the world to end the collapse if we do so, right? You often hear that, if we discover life tomorrow, the world's gonna end, or the stock market's gonna crash and everything's gonna burn or whatever. And I'm like, that's not where we are as a species. First of all, I think we've put our big boy pants on and we're able to handle it. You know what I mean? If they announced it tomorrow, I don't think it's gonna, cause anything to blow up or end. I think that's something that we can all handle. We're still gonna go to work. We're still gonna do what we gotta do. Bills are still gonna get paid. The difference is we'll just know there's life out there, right? But I digress. Let me get back to the James Webb Telescope thing here. Let's see. Serpens Nebula. The JWST captured images of the Serpens Nebula that showed young stars and their outflows for the first time. Okay, cool. And the Sombrero Galaxy. I actually think the Sombrero Galaxy is pretty cool looking, actually. It's one of the ones that I like, next to like the Crab Nebula and stuff like that. The JWST captured an image of the Sombrero Galaxy in stunning detail, as they say here. I will definitely have to check that out. But that is everything that they have on the list, according to Google, that the James Webb Telescope found in 2024. All right, let's move on. One of the other things um, that I often think about when it comes to the timeline is how many discoveries that we found, like say Egypt, buried under the sand, where people walked over it for thousands of years, right? And no one had any idea it was there, until it was, they stumble upon it, or, in many cases find it by accident. But in some cases, they find it by actually listening to what the ancients said about it and go and look and say, oh, look, what they said was there is actually there, you know. Um, but when you look at the timeline and you think about the universe and all the just plethora of galaxies that are out there, who's to say that there haven't been millions of different civilizations that have existed over the years, both around us in our galaxy, maybe in our own solar system, or even on Earth itself before we existed, and were wiped out before they had a chance to coincide, say at the same time we did. That's really not that far fetched. And again, I take that back to the idea of look at how many things that we've discovered that were buried right underneath our feet and had no idea those civilizations ever existed until we found them. And, the same thing could be going on in the universe. There might be life out there. Some ancient ruins on some of these other exoplanets and other places out there. There's some people who subscribe to the idea that Mars and the moon at some point may have had civilizations on them. I've seen many things about people alluding to structures on the moon and the Mars and stuff like that. But who knows? We'll save that for another night. But it's really easy to see why we haven't discovered anything, substantial yet. When you look at it that way, imagine an extinction level event hits Earth right now. Right at this moment, everything, we get hit by the biggest asteroid we've ever seen, something bigger than a Chicxulub, asteroid that, took out the dinosaurs or whatever. Imagine something bigger than that hits us, right? And virtually just wipes off the face of the earth everything that we know and see, strips off the Earth's atmosphere, kind of like how Mars's atmosphere seems to have been stripped off. What if that happens here? And everything's gone, right? Then what? What happens a million years after that? And a new species or a new life form gets here. What are they going to find? What's left? They could come here, live here for thousands of years, and never knew that any of us were here or ever existed. Right? It's that simple. Now multiply that by the entire universe, and is it really that far-fetched to think that there could have been other civilizations that just came and went before we even had an opportunity to even, communicate or, see evidence of them or whatever? I mean, think about it. Time, and you really got to wrap your head around when I say time. I'm talking, millions and billions of years. I mean, if we can't figure out the pyramids in thousands of years, what are we going to figure out in billions? But I digress. Let's move on. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of the wow signal, the infamous wow signal. That was detected in, I believe, 1977 or 78, somewhere around there. Um, that that always fascinated me because that's when they had the SETI program, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and they started looking for signs of life, technological signs of life, communications, etc. I'm not surprised at all that signals, you know, would be few and far between, for the same reason I said before that these civilizations could have come and gone already before they had a chance to reach, a level that we could communicate with them. And not just that, their technology might be completely different from ours. That even if we could try to communicate with them, it may not even work. Imagine, we're trying to use, let's say, today's, HD technology, um, and we're trying to, communicate with someone who has, you know, a Walkman technology. I mean, just imagine that. Think about those two machines. When you think about, let's say, a CD player, for instance. Back in the day, we all had the CD players, right? CDs were everything. But before that, it was like tapes and 8 tracks. Well, a tape can't communicate with a CD, right? There was no, without the proper technology, there was no way to plug and play those things until later on when they developed a way to do that. And then, of course, everything switched over to CD, and CD took over, and tapes kind of vanished, except for us, a few of us old hip hop heads that, hang on to our killer tape. um, but, but again, it doesn't surprise me at all that when they search for signals and technological signatures, they're not really seeing them. That part to me is not surprising. And this is my personal opinion. All right, don't shoot me, but this is my personal opinion. I think when we discover signs of extraterrestrial life or any other civilizations beyond the Earth, I think 9 times out of 10 it's going to be us setting foot somewhere, or a probe somewhere, or a rover or something like that, taking pictures, on a planet and discovering, like landing on, Titan or something, and the rover rolls around and bumps into a giant pyramid, or some structure or something like that. Honestly, I think that's how we're going to end up finding it. It's going to be us physically putting something somewhere, and it actually sees it or finds it in that way. It won't be us necessarily communicating with them, or with any other species or whatnot. It'll be us actually having to go there in some form, whether it be using robots and AI or something like that, which I think AI is probably going to be the main discoverer of it. Using robots and artificial intelligence is probably going to be the way we're going to find it. Which I think is kind of funny that we create artificial intelligence to find signs of actual life. But but anyway, so according to I'm hopping on Google just to be transparent. According to current scientific understanding, finding signs of life on other planets, they say, could happen within a few decades. That's just freaking mind blowing to think that we've gone from a point of saying, it's, a possibility, or to, I mean, before that, it was highly unlikely. Now they're saying they're going to find it in a few decades. Now, I can't even begin to understand, how anyone could put that kind of timeline on something like that. But unless they know something that we don't know. But again, let me not get too deep into that just yet. We'll save that for another time. But that kind of sent some little, my spidey sense started tingling the first time I read that, right? But they say with the advancements of telescopes like the James Webb Telescope that we discussed earlier, I mean, um, the detection of atmospheric signatures indicating the presence of life on exoplanets. Though some scientists believe it might take longer, possibly into the 2030s or 2040s, which that in itself is insane. Um, that they could confirm life on another planet. I mean, just think about the fact that they're able to say that with like confidence. I mean, again, you tell me what you think. Send me your thoughts on that, because yeah, Spidey sense tingling. But anyway, I think again, technology is going to be the way we're going to find these things. Assuming that we haven't already, and they just refuse to let us know. But when you look back at say like the 1950s, right, when there was the big I think it was called the UFO flap, something like that, where it was just UFO everything, to the point that the government actually stepped in and did a some type of study, public study. Who knows the truth behind that exactly, but it forced them to actually have to look at it. And then you fast forward to our time, and now they've confirmed that UFOs, or what they call UAPs, do exist. So that's no longer even a debate, which blows my mind how many people still want to debate that with me, that they've already confirmed that part. So just to throw that out there for everybody that's listening to this, all right? This is not me saying this. This is your government saying this, our government saying this, that they have confirmed that they do exist. They just don't know what they are. Take that as you will. All right. But that's a fact now. So anyone who's still on the idea of conspiracy theory on that, just let that go. They've already at least confirmed that much. Right. But then people say, well, if that's the case, then we've already discovered extraterrestrial life. No, we don't know what they are. That's the thing they get to. They don't know what they don't know what they are yet, right? According to them, but at least they admitted to that much, right? So that's a step forward. Now we can have a little bit more conversations about it. It's a little bit more out in the open. We can talk about it, right? And that's at least better than it was decades ago, where if you just mentioned it, you were thrown in a loony bin, right? Your life was over, career, whatever, everything done, right? Done, finito, right? So at least there's that. I mean, hell, I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk to you right now about it, back in those days. So that alone is pretty amazing in itself. But the fact that they came out and said it, I had a little bit of a mixed emotions about it when I saw the headlines. I think it was the New York Times, and it threw me for a loop for a second. I had to even my brother's into this kind of stuff too, science stuff and all that, and I had to hit him up immediately, like, you see this? And yeah, we were just like, man, we're living in crazy times right now where this is a thing, and for some who know and don't know, I did serve in the military, and I don't talk about it too often. I have my reasons, but a lot of guys I ran into and stuff, it was not it wasn't uncommon for us to be hanging around some bar in some third world country somewhere, and somebody start mentioning about certain things that they hear, saw, see, etc., or they know. That was a very, very common thing. And I may discuss some of those things down the line, but I won't do it right now, especially if I have to talk to certain people and see what they're cool with or whatever. um, which is part of what led me down this, virtual rabbit hole, with some of my experiences from the past and people I've discussed things with, that led me down this way down the line. Because at one point I was a very closed-minded individual. There was the hood and that was it. You know what I mean? And there wasn't much else. Um, there was it was music. Everything was hip hop. I'm a hip hop head, always will be. Wu Tang forever type thing and all that. And that's pretty much how my world revolved for a long time. Um, and then, everything changed a little bit, when my father kind of opened my mind up to some things because he was a very open minded individual. Um, and then, of course, when I went into the military and traveled the world, and that was just a culture shock, to from all the things that you saw on, the news or whatever in the United States. And then you get overseas and you travel the world and you talk to people in these actual countries or whatnot, everything changes. You start seeing things completely different because you realize that things aren't really being given to you the way that it's meant to be, or the way that it is supposed to be, etc. And that kind of opened my mind, and I started becoming more of an open-minded person, more of a worldly person, and seeing how things go, and being less judgmental about things and the experiences of people. And that's one thing that kind of led me to doing this. I like discussing those types of things. I like being open-minded. I like being able to talk and speak about things and it not be a fight or argument. It's just, this is my idea. What's your idea? This is my opinion. What's your opinion? And we discuss it, like consenting adults, you know what I mean? And then we might agree to disagree, etc. We might be cool with it, might not, but you still walk away and you take from it what you can, because any bit of information you get can be useful. It doesn't matter what it is. Any information can be useful in some form. It just depends on if you are able to or are willing to accept and use it as such. But I'm going to bet on a tangent. But back to the idea of life in the universe. And please don't forget, leave comments. I want to hear what you think about it. What you think about the show, etc. I would love to hear your side of things and other people's experiences out there. Send me your stories, all that. I love that kind of stuff. I love hearing from real people and their real experiences, and things like that, because there's always something you can take from it that can help you or affect you, or even just give you a different perspective on life. So by all means, shoot me a message in the comments, and hit the like and subscribe for future notifications, please. One of the other things, what's his name? The doctor, I believe it's Dr. Stephen Greer. He's one of the guys that I follow, and I'm pretty sure many of you do too. But for the most part, I like his take on things. And when I say his take on things, I mean his wanting to actually get people to come to him, to discuss things and bring things to him and then present it in a platform that people can kind of get all the information or whatnot. Now, am I going to sit there and say that everything is exactly what it's put out to be? Maybe not. But it's, to me, it's better to get all the information, the raw data, put it all together. Because if you get everything together, then you can sift through it yourself. And I'm a big believer in do the work for yourself. Don't listen to somebody else tell you what something is. Go find out for yourself. My pops used to say all the time, if they want to hide something from you, they're going to put it in a book. Go read. A lot of people will just hop online and watch a YouTube short or something and go, okay, I understand, I got it. No, you don't. No, you don't. Go get books. Go to the library, right? Go get books and read. So That's one thing I used to do a lot of, right? I love reading, but whenever I didn't understand a subject, or if I needed to take a class on something specific, like I took a class one time on the ancient Sumerian culture. That's actually a culture that absolutely fascinates me. I love that culture. Um, but I wanted to learn more about it, right, and get more familiarized with it. And when I was taking the class, the subject matter was good, but I could kind of tell that they were skipping over certain things, and I just was, I wasn't quite grasping it in the detail that I wanted to. So I took my father's advice and I went down to the local library at the time, and I found some of the older books on the Sumerian culture there, and I checked them out or whatnot. The old school way where you actually had to go in and talk to somebody, and you had to pull out the drawer that never ends, pull out the card, go walk down, find the other card, then boom, you find the book. Yeah, that whole thing. Before you had all this Google and stuff. Anyway, um, so I got those books, and it was two books. And when I started reading those books and the just multitude of detailed information that was in those books, by the time I got done, I could have cared less about the class. I could have taught it. The it was just it was so much information in those books, and that's why I love books so much. When it comes to any subject matter, I tell people all the time, get a book and read. If it's something you want to know about, get a book and read. You can teach yourself anything. You can learn anything. You know, if you're willing to put in the work. And some people think, well, I haven't been to this school and that school. Unless your goal is just to get a piece of paper to put on a wall, and what's actually important to you is what actually is important, and that's the knowledge. You can go teach yourself anything. You can go to the library. You can, now you can just hop on like Amazon or something and just, order the book or download it to Kindle or something like that. Do that. Get the book, read it. There's so much more information in the book. Anyway, um, when I was studying that culture, the more I read, the more I was beginning to see kind of a pattern that ancient cultures in general seem to have the same like kind of theme when it comes to the universe or extraterrestrial questions, so to speak. And for them, it's a matter of fact. They don't even question it. They all are like, yeah, there's life out there. What's the big deal? Yeah, that's where our gods came from. They came here and they taught us all this stuff. That's how we know what we know. I mean, how else would we know? It's not like we hopped in a ship and flew out there and figured it out. Somebody came here and told us, And I know for some people that in some, organizations that's, fringe stuff or whatnot. But hey, that's what we're here to do, right? But when I listen, or not say listen, but when I read that type of information, it kind of opened my mind to looking at paying attention more to the ancients, and what they say about these things that we're trying to discover. I think a lot of the questions we're trying to answer have already been answered. And, unfortunately, in the society we live in with this type of information, a lot of stuff gets whitewashed, suppressed. Books disappear, or they do this is the volume 6 you got to have or whatever. And you could do this yourself. I've done it before, where I've gone and deliberately got a specific book that was the older version, and then you get the new version, and then you flip through them page by page, right? It's supposed to be the same exact book, but try this. Open each book and do it page by page, And as you go through, you're going to start seeing all this stuff that they clearly took out of it. They didn't add new stuff. Now, how they get you is they'll add like a new picture or something in place of where words used to be, so to speak. And then, so it's like they slowly kind of take information out, you know. So that's why I believe in collecting old books. I'm a big collector of books. Like I said before, I'm a comic book nerd, but I mean, actual like novels and stuff like that, and old textbooks and stuff. I believe in collecting those types of old books because that was especially before the digital era, where they couldn't take that kind of stuff out, and they weren't big into whitewashing that kind of stuff yet, So if you get the opportunity, hit a thrift store or something and just look for those old books that predate the digital era. You'd be surprised in some of the stuff that's written in those and the information that you get. That'll definitely open your mind, and some stuff will probably keep you up at night. So fair warning. Anyway, when you look at how many exoplanets have been discovered recently, let's just say in the last, when I say recently, I mean in the last decade, right? We discovered more than we, ever thought we could find, right? And it seems like they're finding more and more of them every day, right? And more importantly, many of them are being found in what's known as the, Goldilocks or habitable zone, right? And for those of you that don't know, that's kind of like the zone where the conditions are perfect, right? Remember the old Goldilocks story where, the porridge was just right? It's kind of like that, where, everything is just right for conditions for life to form. But here's the thing about that. Those Goldilocks zones that they say for these exoplanets, right, are based on for carbon life, like our type of life to form, So in my mind, I think that's a good thing to look for. But if we're only looking for life as we know it, I think we're limiting ourselves in a big way. I think we need to try to find ways to look for life that's outside of the box, so to speak, in other forms, not just that will form, in a way that we expect it to happen, right? Because I think we just limit ourselves, because if you walk into a grocery store, right, and you're in there to get oranges, all you're looking for is oranges, right? And you're gonna walk past all the other, apples and pears and everything else that's in there because your focus is oranges, right? So when someone says to you, "Hey, there's more fruits and vegetables than oranges," you know that, right? What are you talking about? All I see is oranges, So that's that. It might be a poor analogy, but that's the way that I see it. I think they really need to look at life in an expanded way, and start thinking outside the box to see if there's, maybe some other way that we could be looking for extraterrestrial life out there, right? But that's my opinion. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show. By all means, again, leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, etc. Depending on what platform you're listening on. Do the things, hit all the buttons, etc. Right? This has been absolutely fun. I think I will most likely continue doing this. Let me know what your opinions are. You can follow me on Thinktankden on Instagram as well. I have myself and a couple of associates that are working together to, we put quotes and things like that on there. Kind of just keep people motivated. And just keep the mind going. That's my big thing, is about just keeping the mind stimulated, and moving forward and forward thinking, right? And challenging yourself. Challenge yourself. It's a new year, new challenges, right? Get out there, do something different, do something new. If there's something you've always wanted to do that you just kept putting off, don't put it off anymore. Don't worry about how, the whys and the whens. Just do it. Get out there and just start doing it. I'm telling you, you won't regret it. You're gonna be a better person for it. You're gonna be, most importantly, you're gonna feel better about it, for yourself. When you get out there and do things that challenge you and get out of your comfort zone, and you get things done that you always wanted to do, right? Get out there and do it. Anyway, this has been it's been dope. It's been awesome. Love it. By all means, again, like I said, like, follow, subscribe, hit me up. This is the Thinktankden After Dark podcast. I'm your host, Lelow Def, in the building, and